Hey guys, in this audio, I want to talk about the reason you're not benefiting from all the good content you're reading. So, do you feel like you're learning a lot, but you're not really benefiting? I know the feeling. And I think I found a difference maker. So, there are basically two ways we read anything. We could read it passively or actively. And what's the difference between the two? Here are some signs that you're reading passively. You're rushing through just to say you got it done. You're forgetting what you read right after you read it, and you're falling asleep while you're reading. On the other hand, these are some signs that you're reading actively. You're pausing to ask yourself questions to figure out the meaning of what you're reading. You're making connections between what you've read and your life. And maybe you're making notes of the main points in your own words. As you can see, active reading requires a lot more effort than passive reading. This is likely the reason why most people read passively. It's much easier and there's a sense of accomplishment when you're done. This was my mistake when I first developed a drive to learn. I'd rush through a book simply to say to myself I've read it. If I didn't understand something, I would usually skip it or move on to another book. Some books had review questions, but I would skip over those as well. I did the same thing when reading the Bible. In fact, I think I was worse. Growing up, we always heard that we should read the Bible and pray every day. So to clear my conscience at the end of the day, although tired, I would read some verses while falling asleep simply to say I did it. So active reading actually moves us to action. Then it's the result of that action that benefits us. For example, I stated earlier that a sign that you're reading actively is making connections between what you're reading and your life. So let's say that you're reading about giving to others in need. Since this is something that you've likely heard before, you could easily glance over it. But since you're reading actively, it forces you to stop and think about connecting it to your life. As a result, you may ask questions like, am I giving to others in need? When was the last time I gave to others in need? Who in need can I give to today? The answers to your questions will help you recognize opportunities to put into practice what you've learned. Think about sayings you've read or heard but haven't put into practice. Sayings like, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Or, practice makes perfect. When spoken, we tend to listen to them passively. Or when we read them, we tend to read them passively. But if we read them actively, our lives could actually be transformed by them. So what does the Bible say about active reading? In Joshua 1:8, God tells Joshua, keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. In other words, God told Joshua that to be prosperous and successful, he must be careful to do everything written in the book of the law. That is, the Bible at that time. But it doesn't stop there. To be careful to do everything written in it, he must always keep it on his lips, meditating on it day and night. From this, you could see that it takes more than reading the Bible to do what it says. It takes meditating on it, or what I call actively reading it, to do what it says. Then it's the doing that results in the prosperity and success. Another way to understand it is to recognize that all life changing advice is usually made up of two parts, the action and the result. Here are some examples from the Bible. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. That's found in Luke 6:38. From this verse, where Jesus teaches on giving, the action is give, and the result, it will be given to you. In another teaching, Jesus says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. That's Matthew 6:33. The action is, seek first his kingdom, and the result is, all these things, living needs, will be given. Another verse says, therefore confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. That's found in James 5:16. Confess your sins to each other is the action, and the result is being healed. I'm sure you get the point by now. While we have heard that it's important to read the Bible, what's actually important is to do what it says. But the only way we could do what it says is to read it actively. Only by doing so do we benefit. James 1:25 says, but whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they've heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. In this verse, the word intently is used, and to look intently, like meditating, is an active activity. What's more, at the end of the verse it says, the person is blessed in what they do. Did you hear that? They are blessed in what they do. So the blessing comes through what you do. With each passing day, in this age of the internet, more and more knowledge is being made available to us. So much of that knowledge can transform our lives for the better. That transformation, however, only comes by putting the knowledge into action. And the only way to put the knowledge into action is if we actively consume it. So, whether it's reading the Bible or the latest self help book, watching an educational video, or listening to a motivational podcast, do it actively. Doing it actively will lead you to take action, and only by taking action will you benefit. Thank you for listening.